lazy hands, the Black Coast Life Association talking about the new vocabulary for referring to persons who are in need. I said that time, there are other Nigerians who are not crippled, they are not physically handicapped in any particular respect, but they were going about their normal everyday businesses, and then suddenly, perhaps because of nothing they were directly involved in, there was some civil disturbance, and they lost their means of livelihood, they lost their homes, some lost their lives. Now those who survived were moved to some camps, some settlement for displaced persons. And I'm talking about the disturbances in Jos, in Kano, and in Kaduna. We're going to talk about these persons who, because of these circumstances and these disturbances, have fallen into the category of the needy. They are, if Lizzie will permit me, they become destitute. And they are being destitute camps. So I'm joined by the chairman of the Christian Association of Nigeria in Kano State, the Reverend Joseph Fadipe. Fadipe, thank you for joining us today. In an interview, he granted some national papers. He raised the matter of not just the persons who have been killed, but some, but there are about 1,000 persons who are still not located, who are missing. We'll talk about it. But the Reverend Fadipe is also joined by the Reverend Larry Thompson. Reverend Thompson is the coordinator of the Macedonian Initiative. Reverend Thompson, thank you for joining us today. The Macedonian Initiative takes up the matter of persons who've been displaced and are in need. We'll talk about that in the course of the discussion. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us. Thank you. Okay, straight away, the Jos crisis, the crisis in Kano, and then that was Kaduna. About what number of persons are we talking about in terms of the displaced persons? About what numbers are we looking at now?
Well, in Kano, we have about 10,000 people displaced.
Where are these persons now?
Some of them are in the police barrack, some are in the military barrack, and then because of the crowd and then because of the congestion, we try to move some of them to some bigger churches who provide a space.
When you say police barrack, are you talking of their squatting with relations, friends, or residents?
Few of them are squatting, but most of them are just staying in any space they can find. Especially in the Bombay barracks, the people have taken over the Deeper Life Church. Just sleep there in the night, no open space, and then in the morning they just pack their things to one corner.
Okay, that means they still cater for themselves.
Yeah, they cater for themselves, but mostly Christian Nigeria try to go from place to place, trying to get some batch of rice and drugs and so on.
The Macedonian Initiative, you have been involved in trying to settle these people. Have you been getting funds or help from other organizations who are joining to help give these people a new life?
Yes, well, for the benefit of those who probably don't know, the Macedonian Initiative started work last year after the crisis in Kaduna. And we've since then been working hand in hand with the Christian Association of Nigeria, the Family Fellowship, and all the branches under it. We have been working with Nigerians who have responded to the Macedonian call. At the same time, I must confess, my last conversation with Dr. Mban and Bishop Michael Kinkos, we had to point out that there seems to be a great need for education for people in this nation as to our duty when it comes to taking care of people who are disadvantaged. What I'm saying in a nutshell is that the response hasn't been encouraging, frankly speaking. In Kaduna, in Jos, in Kano, we've been there, we saw what went on there, we see the kind of need that there is. Let me say that we have met about 4% of the need. Yes, talking about widows, orphans, like you said, homeless people, and all.
Let's look at this 4% you're talking about. Are you talking about 4% in terms of what they need for feeding, for clothing, for shelter, and all that? I understand that some of them are in camps, for want of better expression, called them destitute camps, right? What's the state of life in these camps?
Terrible. Terrible, because what you have is more or less, like you said, an ad hoc. In all the cases we followed, what always happens is that you have an ad hoc arrangement whereby a church or some interested person gives up his land. The latest one in Kano, Deeper Life, gave up the land. And the people just come, squat, sleep in places that they can get to sleep on the corridor. Those who still have jobs, they can go back to their jobs from those places. But the better part of them are people who've lost like husbands, lost their wives, houses have been burned, some have only maybe a shirt on their backs. And so you're looking at people who have been traumatized and who actually need a lot more care than just good in terms of food and clothing. What we do actually is that we just use that as a first measure, as a damage control, to at least keep their hopes alive and keep them going while we...
Well, health care, I'm sure there are those who are injured who need medical attention. Are they getting that too?
Well, if you look at some of the photographs, for instance, from Kano, that we brought in for you, you'll find out that actually it's a lot of independent doctors who have volunteered their services, who are mostly of a Christian persuasion in faith that the people are taken into. But if you're asking about a coordinated effort to take care of the people in the camps themselves are makeshift. And there is no major coordinated effort. I'm sure Reverend Joseph Fadiba wants to say something about that.
Yeah. For example, in Kano, no effort is made by the government except the Red Cross, who from time to time visit the place to offer assistance. And then one Dr. Mokelu volunteer himself with some nurses. Then from time to time I go and pick them and then go and examine people, spend some hours with them. And there's no any plan or effort by the government or any other group. So the little we are doing, and it's not easy. Because
as a matter of fact, I think some children died in the camps. We're talking about hypothermia here. Since the Harmattan season is coming in the northern parts of the country especially, temperatures are dropping. Now when children are malnourished, they're the most vulnerable. We found out that the women and the children are the most vulnerable. So we have death of children because of the lack of adequate care and attention.
You probably would have some pregnant women there too?
Yeah.
Is there any maternity care for them?
There's none. As the doctors call in and they'll see them once in a good time when you take them to the hospitals. Without there's no... actually, their situation is more prepared because it's an open space, very dusty, and it's affecting them very well.
Well, there are issues we must talk about now. It's as Tusi asked earlier, we want to know whose responsibility it is to take care of this. But let's just confirm that if you're just joining us on Kakaki now, we have the Reverend Joseph Fadipe, who's chairman of the Christian Association of Nigeria in Kano State. Reverend Fadipe is joined by Reverend Ladi Thompson. He's the coordinator of the Macedonian Initiative. And we're looking at issues arising from the fallout of the crisis in Jos, in Kano, and also in Kaduna, and what's happened to all those displaced persons, nearly 40,000 of them who are now in camps scattered around parts of those areas.
As we keep asking, how you, Reverend, let me go to Reverend Fadipe. How can such be prevented? We had guests on this program, and most of them have said this religious crisis has political undertone, that different individuals are trying to satisfy their own selfish interests, and just innocent lives that are being lost.
Well, Kano is precisely have two dimensions. One is religious, and the other side is political. And the religious aspect is that it seems like there's a plan to wipe out all churches in Kano. For example, 35 churches were burned outside Southern area. And already, about 2 months ago, we went to the presidency to complain against the government plan to burn down, to demolish 54 churches. And I think the government, the federal government intervened. For that reason, they had to use another method by Kano State government supporting some fanatics to go. Because when the crisis started, the first thing they did is different groups went to different places to attack the churches. Before I start attacking the Christians, and because of my experience, because rampant thing there, most black people were able to leave the dangerous places before the protest. Some went into the bush, and that's why we cannot find them now.
Yes, we take to the focus of the discussion actually, when we're talking about the displaced persons, but these are very serious allegations you're making, that the Kano state government planned to burn 54 churches, and then they gave support to the fanatics you said, who later burned several churches. Is there some way you can substantiate these claims?
Yes, there's a letter. I don't have a copy here. There's a letter written to us by CASIPA.
What's CASIPA?
The Kano State Environmental
Protection Agency.
Yeah. They wrote a letter that 54 of our churches didn't have government approval, so they are going to demolish it. Okay, we protested, but somewhere along the line, they demolished 23, excluding these 54, in another area with the same complaint. So when we protested, we went to our to protest, and then the IG sent some people to come and investigate. So that prevented them from executing their plan. But then, if we look at this crisis, the way it happened, immediately it happened, there are groups already trained who went to where the churches were outside Sabongeri and burned the churches. So now all the churches outside Sabongeri, about 25 now, are gone. And now a letter, an appeal has been made by some landlords, outside landlords, to the government that it should not allow us to rebuild those churches. So from there, we conclude that they have eventually achieved what they want to. They want to wipe out the churches outside Sabongeri so that we'll be limited to Sabongeri.
An appeal has been made, but then I'm sure the government has not responded.
He has not responded. Even he has not called us. He's always avoiding the Christian association by calling the traditional community leaders. They have not said anything. Even we wrote letters to him, we want to see him, and then so that the new officers will know. He replied that, well, it's not necessary.
Okay, if you just join us on Kakaki. This morning we're looking at the fallout of the crisis in Jos, Kano, and Kaduna. We're joined by the Reverend Joseph Fadipe, who is chairman of the Christian Association of Nigeria, Kano State. Reverend Fadipe also has with him the Reverend Ladi Thompson. Reverend Thompson is a coordinator of the Macedonian initiative. We usually invite contribution on matters like this, and if the phones are working, we'll take your contributions. We have a bit of a problem with the lines now. We're still certain that as soon as they work out, we'll let you know. We'll have the numbers here, and then you may call us. Gentlemen, I asked a question earlier. Let's go back a bit to the displaced persons in these destitute camps. Who takes care of them? You mentioned the Red Cross and the Christian Association of Nigeria. Is there any government input?
There's no government input. From our own side, the Kano State government has always, avoided assisting Christians when it comes to a situation like this. The next 9 crisis, for example, some aid was sent to the governor of Kano State by the federal government, and then we didn't know where they relief went. The Yoruba community up to now are fighting with the government about why their people were not given anything. Because whatever comes, it looks like they have believed that non-Kano indigenes have no right to any benefits there. So they divert the thing to themselves.